Welcome to another FPL video. This is going to be my team selection, but if there are any changes, especially some significant ones to my overall team and transfer plans, then I will be making an updated team selection. So I'm going to be talking about how Game Week 11 went, my plans for Game Week 12, talking about the captaincy and much more. So let's get straight into the video. We finally got a green arrow after 3 or 4 reds in a row, I believe. So we went from around 199k to 113. I'll take that, and it is a step in the right direction, of course. I played my wildcard in Game Week 8, and ever since around that time period, I've been getting plenty of red arrows. So Ramsdale in goal, got 7 points, but once again with the goalkeeper situation, whoever I bench just seems to have the game of their lives. Ramsdale last week against Leicester, and then obviously in Game Week 11 it was Ben Foster saving that penalty from Aubameyang, which was pretty average to be honest, and savable in my opinion, but still a great save. And Foster made some absolute world-class saves on top of that, like the one to prevent Gabriel from scoring a header. So very good performance from Foster. He got 11 points on my bench. He was the top scoring goalkeeper pretty much for the week. Fantastic performance from him, and it is a shame that his only return really has come when we've all pretty much benched him. Livramento's another one who I was aware he probably could have kept a clean sheet. Aston Villa were struggling in the last few game weeks. They now sacked Dean Smith, and that's now 5 losses in a row for the Villains. And Southampton have shown a lot of improvement defensively, and in terms of XGC, they're actually top over the last 4 game weeks prior to Game Week 11. So I was talking about all of this, and I wasn't very happy with benching Livramento, and I wasn't surprised. I'm just a bit thankful we didn't get any bonus points to kind of rub salt in the wounds. But my overall defence was very good. So James got 7 points despite conceding late on, and if it wasn't for that goal by Vidra, he could have been on for another big haul once again. Trent Alexander-Arnold, despite conceding 3 goals in an amazing game in my opinion against West Ham, he got 12 points. He scored the goal from the free kick and got an assist. So very good performance from him. Still defensively, obviously he can be got at, but in terms of attacking point of view, that's the reason why you got Trent in your team. And then Chilwell, disappointing, but to be honest, I was very pleased with the fullbacks for Chelsea and how they performed. They were getting to some great positions, and I think if Barkley, Hudson-Odoi, etc. weren't so greedy in certain situations, I think Chilwell and James could have actually made the most of the great positions they were taking up. And then Cancelo, this highlight of the week for sure, 14 points, got the clean sheet, 2 assists, including for an own goal by Eric Bailly. A masterclass by Joao Cancelo, and he was man of the match. A great performance, and he carried on that form from the Champions League where he got a hat-trick of assists against Club Brugge. And now looking at my midfield, we've got Foden, and I have to say once again another blank since coming into my team, but I'm very happy and encouraged by his performances. He should have scored against Manchester United, but still really good performance overall. I think he was one of the better players in the game, and just because he blanked, it doesn't mean we should be getting rid of him. I know there's this big appeal about Jota, Son, etc., but if you have Foden, I'd still say I keep him, and in future videos I'll be talking about this even more so. And then Salah captain, to be honest, it doesn't really make much of a difference whether you captain Salah or not. I think because he faced West Ham, more people kind of deviated away from Salah captaincy, and those people might have been more severely punished, unless you went for Rafinha, for example, or someone else who actually did well. But really, Salah captaincy isn't really too big of a problem in the grand scheme of things, unless you don't captain him and he goes berserk like he did against United a few weeks ago. Then Rafinha, 9 points once again. He always seems to avoid getting double digits, but still really good performance by him, and maximum bonus points for the 2nd week running. So very happy with the Brazilian. The fixtures now are going to be turning very shortly for Leeds United, and even before Game Week 16 when they look absolutely awful, there's some pretty difficult ones in there, including Spurs away. So that is kind of a decision in itself, what we do with Rafinha. And then Jamie Vardy, another blank for him, which is very, very unlike him, but sometimes he is streaky and it goes both ways, and unfortunately right now he is in poor form, but so are Leicester in general, so it's not an ideal situation, but Vardy is still one of the best strikers. And to be honest, we look across the board and how many strikers have been delivering, especially in Game Week 11, not many. So I think it is good to be patient if possible, and of course Ronaldo, Kane, those 2 premium assets, we're going to be keeping a very firm eye on them. But Jamie Vardy is still a good option, especially after the Chelsea game. Ivan Toney, though, I have to say, Very disappointing. Of course, he is a cheap striker coming up from the Championship. Maybe we overhyped him or we had too much expectation. He's got some decent underlying stats. He has had some good performances despite not really getting those goals and assists. But of course, disappointing nonetheless. Blanking against Norwich, and Mbeumo did score courtesy of a Tony assist, but that goal got ruled out by VAR. So ultimately very disappointing from all the Brentford assets, unless you own Rico Henry. But still, I think Tony can come good. But I'll be honest, my patience is wearing thin. And looking at it now, at this moment in time, I think a 3-5-2 or 4-4-2 is a plausible kind of switch in terms of your formation, and maybe going away from those three strikers. But in a few weeks' time, when Lukaku comes back from injury, if Ronaldo comes back to form, Bamford and Calvert-Lewin are in the mix, Antonio starts scoring, etc., maybe we're going to be thinking differently of the strikers. So maybe it's just a temporary blip, and it just seems a bit of a coincidence. I think the strikers will kick on and they will improve, but will Ivan Toney form part of that? I'm not so sure, but a great fixture against Newcastle soon. I'll be talking about him in a little bit. And of course, Antonio, blanking yet again. And his overall performance against Liverpool was pretty disappointing. He looked a bit lethargic on the ball. He looked a bit clumsy. But then again, he is facing Virgil van Dijk after all. And West Ham still scored 3 goals. That's 7 goals in 2 games. And Antonio was involved in none of them, which is absolutely incredible. But against Wolves, I think a lot of people will be getting rid of him despite that good fixture. And I know Wolves have been very good recently. But I think you hold Antonio if you have kept him for that Liverpool game. And I think he can come good. And of course, there is this kind of whole debate whether we should keep or sell Antonio. I've been talking about this in the past few videos and live streams, and I'll be talking about it once again in future videos like I alluded to earlier. And then once again on my bench, Foster, Livramento. Townsend did blank, but even then if he did produce a return, I wouldn't have been that frustrated because I was never really going to start him, to be honest. And then Douglas Luiz, of course, is still out. So overall, a good week and a lot of positive things here. Much better than the last few game weeks where I have to say a lot of things went wrong. But moving on to Game Week 12, I'll be showing you my team, my captaincy, and much more. And let's get straight into it. So as you can see, I'm playing 5 at the back, and that's not something I normally do. And of course, we can see already a yellow flag, courtesy of the international break with Livramento. And let's keep an eye on that situation. And that's why it's probably important to try hold your transfers if possible. And I was talking about this in a reaction stream recently. If you absolutely have to make an early transfer, you've got the squad depth already to cover in case there's any more injuries or whatever that happens, then make the early transfer. So long as you're going to be priced out of a certain player, and that's going to improve your team for the long term. But there's always a risk of injuries coming about. Livramento could be fine ahead of Game Week 12, but it's still something to be concerned about and to keep an eye on. But at the moment, I am still starting Livramento, of course. If he isn't fit, then I will be happy to play Rafinha, to be honest. I think he could do all right against Spurs, but that will be Conte's first league game at Tottenham. So maybe if they do continue that fine defensive form from the Everton game, then maybe Leeds are going to struggle to score, especially if Bamford is still out. Ramsdale away to Liverpool. Of course, I'm not confident at all. I think Liverpool, they have just dropped points recently in the last 2 games. I think they're going to be coming out guns blazing, and I think they could do really well against Arsenal despite the Gunners' improvement recently. But yeah, for me, Liverpool will probably score 2 or 3 goals, but I'll still start Ramsdale over Foster because he's facing Man United, and I expect the Red Devils to once again score 2 or 3 goals as well. But the difference between Ramsdale and Foster, obviously Game Week 11 aside, is that Ramsdale can accumulate those save and bonus points more frequently than probably any other keeper at the moment, at least around his price bracket. Now my defence, I've got double Chelsea against Leicester away. That's not very easy, and of course that is a conflict with Jamie Vardy, who is facing Chelsea at home. I'm not very, I'd say, happy or content with the situation. Someone is going to blank along the way. But once again, you know, this kind of reminds me of the situation where I had Ramsdale facing Vardy in Game Week 10, and I ended up backing Vardy and benching Ramsdale because I didn't want that conflict. And in the end, I benched all those 10 points. So sometimes you shouldn't think about it too much in terms of these conflicts in your team and players who are facing each other, and maybe just start all of them. But of course, are Leicester going to score against Chelsea? It's not a guarantee. But is Vardy going to blank against Chelsea? That's also not a guarantee. He's got a great record against the top 6. So that's something that isn't very ideal. It's not an ideal situation. But I think I'll be happy to play all of them at the moment, even though it's not the best place to be. Trent Alexander-Arnold at home to Arsenal. Not a great fixture, but I think Liverpool can keep a clean sheet. and Trent, of course, can get attacking returns from so many different avenues, especially through set pieces. And then Cancelo at home to Everton. I think a City clean sheet is very likely against Everton, and Cancelo's attacking returns, it's just looking absolutely incredible. And this season, actually, Cancelo's registered the most touches in the opponent's third of any player, even more so than Mohamed Salah, who is second. So Cancelo's looking really good at the moment, and I would definitely not be selling him. And I was talking about this even in previous weeks, where the Chelsea duo of Reece James and Ben Chilwell were outshining the Portuguese international. Cancelo for me is still a must-hold, and of course, right now, so long as he can stay into that team for the long run, he's definitely probably one of my favourite defenders and options to pick. And then Livramento, of course, like I discussed, a decent fixture against Norwich. I wouldn't be too surprised if Southampton failed to keep a clean sheet against the Canaries, but Livramento is still someone I'd actually want to start this time for once before the fixtures turn for Southampton. Of course, they do face Liverpool soon, and they've got a few other tricky games on the horizon. And then I've got two midfielders. It looks so weird to only have two midfielders. I've got Phil Foden and Salah. I'd actually be happy to captain Foden or even Cancelo against Everton, but I think I'll be sticking with Salah. He's got a good record against the Gunners, and once again I do expect Liverpool to score 2 or 3, and Salah, of course, is just an absolute animal at the moment. Even got an assist against West Ham despite not really having the best of games, but Foden, of course, really good choice, and once again I wouldn't be selling him ahead of Everton. And then my front three, I'll be honest, I'm not really too confident about them. Antonio actually is the one I have the most faith in Game Week 12 against Wolves. I know Wolves are a decent team, especially defensively, but I think Antonio can get a goal or two finally, and West Ham should be able to score a few past them, but of course it's not a guarantee. And even if West Ham do get those goals, will Antonio even score? The last 2 game weeks have shown that West Ham have so many different sources of points and goals that it's not just a guarantee at this point in time. And then Tony away to Newcastle, of course. I can see a lot of people moving to Callum Wilson, for example, and he could be obviously doing really well after being reunited with Eddie Howe, of course. And there's so many different strikers you can go to, but once again, and this is something I talked about with Vardy earlier, just look around all the strikers and not many of them are producing returns at the moment. So to be honest, I'm just going to be holding Tony for the time being, but patience is definitely wearing thin, and if he keeps this up, he's definitely going to be finding a way out of my team. And let's see how Jamie Vardy does, of course, against Chelsea. That'll be very interesting, and that could be a very big decider in who does well in Game Week 12 and who doesn't. Rafinha on my bench, not very comfortable with it, despite the fact that Spurs could do alright defensively in that game. Townsend, I'm definitely happy to bench against City, although he has done very well at the Etihad in the past, and Douglas Luiz, of course, is still injured, and I'm happy to bench Ben Foster. But now, let me actually talk about my transfer plans, and this is going to be very key in my decision making. So I think if I'm just looking at my team and thinking who is the weak link, it's definitely Andros Townsend, and I have enough money, of course, to get rid of him and get Conor Gallagher. So getting rid of Townsend, I have 6.2 million in the bank. I could also go for Smith Rowe, and I'll be talking about the Smith Rowe versus Gallagher debate very soon. Of course, I've already offered my opinions in the reaction stream, but I think I would be going for Gallagher in this scenario. I think just with the fixtures, and of course I'll be talking about it in more detail, but I think he could be very good. And of course, other areas where I could also improve is moving Rafinha to maybe a Jota or to a Heung-min Son. But in order to do that, I would have to downgrade someone, and of course the main target in order to find that extra money is Jamie Vardy. But then once again, I look at the other strikers, I'm not very too pleased with them. And honestly, looking at all the forwards available, Vardy and Antonio are 2 of my favourites still at this moment in time. And the thing I like about Vardy is that he's a good placeholder for Harry Kane or Cristiano Ronaldo, whoever I decide to go for in the end. So I'm not really too sure about that. I think just the most sensible and logical move would be to get rid of Townsend and get Gallagher in. He was a bit fortunate with the goal against Wolves, but just in general, the positions he's taken up, the underlying stats are back. Milivojevic isn't in the team in the last 2 games, and that is enabling Gallagher to occupy this floating number 10 role and also take these set pieces, which of course were kind of taken and shared between him and Milivojevic, who was actually getting the bulk of them, to be honest. So Gallagher is definitely on my radar, and Palace are doing so well under Patrick Vieira, so it's definitely not not an easy decision what I do in the end, because I also want Jota, Heung-min Son or Harry Kane, and of course Cristiano Ronaldo around game week 15 or 16. So it's a difficult situation. West Ham, of course, are another team. Their fixtures turn around game week 16 or 18. Jarrod Bowen is looking like a really good asset at the moment. Even Pablo Fornals, Said Benrahma, Ben Johnson at the back. But honestly, looking at this team, I like my goalkeepers. Despite Ramsdale having some tough fixtures coming up, I like my defence a lot. And to be honest, I think going big at the back could actually be a good strategy. I wouldn't be, getting rid of Livramento and upgrading him to yet another premium defender. I think that's probably a bit overkill, and I'm pretty happy with the defensive structure I have at this moment in time. One possibility could be downgrading one of these defenders, the premium ones to be exact, to a Ben Johnson. But even Livramento, I think with the fixtures coming up, I know a lot of people are saying just start Livramento every single game, but maybe he's not going to be getting the returns in this kind of fixture run coming up. And going from him to Ben Johnson or Ben White, etc., that could be the way to go, of course. So, of course, let's keep an eye out on Ben Johnson. Will he stay in the team in the long term? Maybe, maybe not. Of course, at this moment in time, I don't think he's going to be dropped by David Moyes. Looking at my midfield, obviously Douglas Luiz is another concern, but Townsend is definitely the weak link. Rafinha in a few game weeks' time can definitely, I can get rid of him. Even now, to be honest, I think you either get rid of Rafinha now or around game week 16, and Jota is definitely an ideal replacement, but I just don't have enough money for that. So what I'm thinking I'm going to be doing, long story short, is getting Gallagher in for Townsend. At this moment in time, I may change my plans, and in the coming weeks, I will probably be looking to either add Harry Kane, Ronaldo up front, or instead I'll be downgrading Vardy to facilitate some moves in midfield, so I can get either Jota, or I could also get Heung-min Son. And maybe what I could do is actually shift formations and only have two strikers, maybe just a budget third forward option like Brocha, or even just a Davis, and then have five in midfield. And maybe when the fixtures turn, I can get a Jarrod Bowen or a Smith Rowe in there to add to a Gallagher and a Jota potentially. But of course, nothing is finalised, as you can see. These are my initial plans, but I think the sensible move here would be to get Gallagher in for Townsend. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you very much to all the support. I'll be making more videos, and I'll be aiming to do a stream actually this week, despite the fact that obviously we don't have any deadline anytime soon. But let me know if you want to see that, and obviously let me know what else you want to see in the coming few videos. And for the preview, comment down below which topics and questions you want covered. This can also include comparisons between players like Chilwell and Reece James, Smith Rowe and Gallagher, etc. So thank you very much for the support. I'm looking forward to seeing your feedback so that I can implement them into my videos. Take care, enjoy the international break, and of course good luck for Game Week 12 when it comes around, and I'll see you next time.